sorry, y'all, doing the recording. She has a background in marketing. So this is gonna help us out a lot. We'll be working with Aisha in the PBA marketing team so that we can help the district understand that although TutorATL started out as a homework hotline, it is not just a homework hotline anymore. Our kids have access to TutorATL from 9 a.m. until 11 p.m. 7 days a week. So with that said, Aisha, you can take it away.
Thank you, Melissa. Good morning, grand morning. Man, I hope I can live up to that introduction. You set the bar high. I appreciate it. Hey, everybody. I am so glad. I'm really excited to be here with y'all this morning. As she said, my name is Aisha Greenlee, and I am new to Atlanta PBA WABE. I've been here a little bit more than 2 weeks. It's been about 6 weeks, but I'm still pretty brand new. And I am part-time to start, but that probably won't last long. I'm sure I'll move over into the full-time realm. But as Melissa said, I do have a little bit of a background in marketing and PR. My more extensive background is actually in education. So I've worked in a lot of facets of education over the years. I started as a teacher. I taught middle school reading and literature. Then I taught overseas in Korea for 2 years as an ESL teacher. I also taught at an adult language school here in Atlanta. I'm from Atlanta, a product of APS. I did not graduate from APS, but I did go to Capitol View Elementary School, if you that old school and remember that. And I went to Sutton Middle School, and then I went to Tampa, Florida for high school. But my degree is in public relations and marketing, so I do have that knowledge. But most of my professional career has actually been in education. Prior to PBA, I actually was with the organization called 3DE by Junior Achievement. You may be familiar with it. So I worked inside of Douglas High School for about 4 years. I was the school director for 3DE at Douglas, and Douglas was the first school that launched 3DE, and then they moved on to South Atlanta to expand, I should say, not move on. And now I'm with PBA, and so I'm still in the world of education. I'm very familiar with APS. Almost all of my professional work in Atlanta has led me to partner with APS in one form or fashion. So the world and the operations of APS is not foreign to me at all. So I'm glad to be able to now have you all as another resource in APS. Because of all of my connections, I've never actually gotten to speak to this particular group directly. So I'm excited to be with you all, and I thank y'all so much. Tanisha, I went to go see Hamilton 2 on Saturday. Wasn't it amazing? I went to the Saturday afternoon show, and I was like a big kid the whole time. So when she was asking me, I was like, oh, it was good. Me, I went too. So yeah, I went to Hamilton on Saturday. So what we're going to do today, it's going to be rather informal. Like she said, TutorATL has been around for about 4 years. It launched in 2017. And basically, it's one of the education initiatives of PBA Atlanta. And so one of the focuses of the organization, being a public media broadcast organization, is to impact education for the listening audience that we serve. APS is our primary focus as an organization because, believe it or not, APS owns the licensing to Public Broadcasting Atlanta, right? So you guys are our most important partner in education, but we also service other school districts and other Metro Atlanta school systems as well outside of APS. And so when TutorATL came along, it's powered by Tutor.com. And what we wanted to do is offer free tutoring services to every student in Atlanta. And initially, it was born because PBA had this real old school method, y'all, what they call the homework hotline. And there was literally people in the PBA office on phones, and kids were calling in, and they had textbooks, and kids were asking them for help with their homework. And in 2017 or 2016, that wasn't really keeping up with the trends of education and society. So then it transitioned to this online platform of Tutor.com. And we were fortunate enough to get some of our very generous, somebody remembers the homework hotline, we were fortunate enough to get our very generous partners who helped to fund our programming to put some of the primary focus in education on helping APS students and other Metro Atlanta students. So we went from homework hotline to TutorATL, which is powered by Tutor.com. Currently, the Wesley Dobbs Foundation is our primary partner for this particular program. So if you see anything in your passing that has the Dodge Foundation on it. Now you can say, you know, something closely and intimately that they are impacting that, you know, impacts the work that you do as well. And so what I want to do today is actually go through the website with you all, TutorATL.com. And it's a bit of a refresh. I think a lot of you are probably already familiar with it. And if you're not, it's okay. Listen, I'm new. So I'm going to ask for grace and compassion in advance, because while I do know the world of education, PBA and TutorATL is a little new to me, but I've taught, I've tutored, I've done all the things. So it's kind of intuitive for me because of my background in education. But I want to make sure that you all feel empowered, because one of my primary goals coming into this organization is to increase the usage of TutorATL that's powered by tutor.com. We want every student who needs tutoring to have access to it. There is no barrier that we want to get in the way of students being able to access tutor.com. So as Melissa said, it's 7 days a week. They're only not available for live tutoring about 4 days per year because of holidays, and those holidays are outlined on the website. It's 9 a.m. to 11 p.m. Those hours were extended once we were impacted by the pandemic. And of course, last school year, when students were learning virtually, the usage skyrocketed. It went through the roof. But now that we're back in a hybrid setting, so to speak, I know for most of APS, everybody's in school. We want the usage to stay there or to continually increase. It's not a resource that should only be utilized in time of crisis. We know that there's a lot of learning loss that instructional leaders are dealing with every day as a result of the pandemic. And so we want to help to supplement some of that, because a teacher's job is never done, and it can never only be done by the teacher. I know that you all have very close relationships to the teachers and the instructional leaders in your school. And so what our hope is that this conversation today will allow you to be a resource to them, and so that you can make them understand that TutorATL is not a homework hotline. TutorATL is an online tutoring platform, and it doesn't have to be in relation to remediation. It doesn't have to be in relation to learning loss. It is in relation to that, but it can just be an additional supplement, an additional resource. It can be used in the classroom while the teacher is with them. If students are doing independent learning, it can be used for asynchronous learning, for students who are doing independent learning obsolete of their teacher. It has so many different uses. And of course, it can be for homework as well. So that's our goal today. And what I'm going to do is share my screen, and we're going to get started with this demo. Let me start by saying that I fully know that I am a fast talker. So if at any point I'm going too fast, Melissa, if you don't mind, like just watching the chat for me and giving me some kind of SOS that I need to slow down a little bit, or if there's a question, this is a conversation. So I know that for this portion of it, I'm leading it, but if there's something that's unclear, I want to be able to answer it for you in real time, or feel free to save your questions until the end of the demo. And if there's a question that you have that I'm unable to answer, I promise you I'll get back to you hopefully within 48 to 72 hours. My partners that I work with directly at tutor.com, my colleagues over there are amazing. And so anything I raise my hand for, they're very attentive to. So I'm sure we'll be able to get all of your needs met. So here is the website. The website is actually tutoratl.org. And on the website, you'll see that initially it asks you to sign in and to learn more. But if you go down, there's actually a video here that was created by my predecessor in this role. And she partnered with some of the production team over at PBA to create this video to get the word out, create awareness about TutorATL. And so that's a good place to start for anybody who's wondering what it is. And then there's just a quick little paragraph there about it. Continuing on, it tells you the hours, what's available, 9 a.m. to 11 a.m., all grades, kindergarten through 12th grade. But in addition to helping students with their curriculum and their academic needs, there's also the opportunity to do test preparation. So students have the opportunity to prepare for the SAT, the ACT, AP classes, standardized classes. All of those things are available in addition to the live tutoring. There's so many resources that are available on TutorATL. And so we're going to
Aisha, I want to pause very quickly, and you probably don't know, but just to make sure that all the ETSs know, because we have some new ones, our teachers and students and you can go to my backpack, click on the TutorATL icon, and you will single sign on through. to TutorATL.
Exactly. I was aware of that. And thank you for bringing that up. That's absolutely correct, Melissa. It is accessible to all APS students and educators through My Backpack. So you don't even have to go to tutoratl.org. So you have two options, and students have two options to be able to access TutorATL. So what I'm going to do is sign in, and we're going to do all the things. Now I'm talking to a group of technology specialists. Y'all know that technology never cooperates when you need it to. So let's hope that that won't be the case today. There we go. All right. Oh, it looks like it signed me in automatically, probably because I'm on it so much. So yes, it signed me in automatically. Just a quick pause. In addition to signing in through My Backpack, if there is a student who for some reason is having issues logging into My Backpack, which can happen here or there. I encountered it with some of the students I worked with at Douglas in the past. Students also can access it through using Fulton County Library System. I doubt an APS student would ever need to do that, but it's just a good FYI for you all, because this service is available to Cobb County. It's available to Fulton County students. It's also available to students who are in private and public school within the Metro Atlanta, primarily Fulton County area. And so Cobb students are logging in using their Cobb County schools login. But if you have a Fulton County library card, you have free access and full access to tutoratl.com. So anyone who wants to use it and they're not going through access via their school district, they're able to access it using a Fulton County library card. So that's just an FYI for you to know. So as you can see, when you log in, this is basically your personalized homepage, and it's giving you various options of things that can be done. So I want to go through all of these various options. So obviously the first option is to connect with a live tutor, 9 a.m. through 11 p.m. every day, 7 days of the week, with the exception of the 4, maybe 5 holidays that tutor.com is not available because of the holiday. If students want to connect with a tutor, they actually have the option to do so without an account. So let's say that you just find this service to be like really, really good. You don't necessarily have to create an account to connect with a live tutor. And if you decide to connect with a live tutor during those service hours and you don't have an account, you also can save the transcript from the session that you have with your tutor. Here's the thing, that is the extent of what you can do on TutorATL without an account. So you can log in, you can do a live session with the tutor, and you can save the transcript. However, you don't get to go back and look at what we call your locker, which is basically going to document all the sessions you've ever had inside of TutorATL. It's also not going to be able to show you a record of every tutor that you've had. One of the main questions that we always get is, can I get the same tutor every time? Unfortunately, you cannot. That is, to some, might be a con, right? Because you like to form relationships. We know that students do really well and they respond well when they're able to form relationships with those who are influencing and impacting their education, right? But unfortunately, with this scenario, you're not able to request a specific tutor or guarantee that you're going to get the same tutor. Now, if you do want to use a specific tutor and you're not sure when they're available, you can submit through inquiry on the website a question or a request, but it doesn't guarantee that you're going to get that tutor, because the tutors, excuse my dryer for going off, guys. The tutors are all over the country, right? They're not isolated to one place. A large majority of the tutors are college students, and we're talking college students from like Ivy League schools. Harvard is one of the main resources of where tutor.com is actually able to recruit their tutors from, right? It's not only Harvard, but that's one example. So for that reason, you're not always able to get the same tutor. Now, if you decide to create an account and log in, you can do all the things I just talked about, but there's so many other things you can do as well. So let's start with the live session. Let's say you're ready for a live session. You go to this drop-down menu and you're going to find whatever subject area that you're looking for assistance in. And you'll see that there's all, you know, the traditional subjects that students have, but then it expands to IB subjects, world languages, even GED help is here, job assistance, or parents who are looking for coaching on how to helpfully make their students successful in their academic journey. So we'll, for the sake of today, pick science. And so my topic is science. The subject is elementary science. And we'll say that for today, I am in the 5th grade. And then it's going to ask me to choose my school. You have to choose the school, but for the purposes of those who are monitoring it, this is so important because this is how we track usage. This is how we're getting our data to see where our users are coming from. So I'll pick Atlanta Public Schools as my school. So it's really not schools, it's just asking what district. And it's saying, how would you like to work with your tutor? This is an important question because while a large majority of students have access to technology outside of school, it may vary the type of access that they have, right? So some students may be logging on from a tablet, from a phone, from a computer, various devices, right? And so if you want to do chat only, you have that option where you don't necessarily have to have dialogue with the tutor that you're going to engage with. You're just solely speaking through a chat. And so you start with your first question here, hit connect now, and then that's how the conversation will begin. It also gives you an option to attach a file. So let's say that your teacher has placed your homework in a digital platform and you're able to actually share that with the tutor, you have the opportunity to attach it here. If you would like to do chat and voice, of course, you have the opportunity to do chat and voice in the sense that we're doing it today where you're using audio from your computer. But for those who are not able to use audio on their computer, there's actually an option to do chat and interaction digitally on the computer, but you're actually speaking over the phone. So if you choose the phone option, TutorATL will actually give you a phone number, and that phone number will connect you directly to the tutor who you've already began the session with. So I want to make sure that everybody understands that no matter what your options are to connect with your tutor, hopefully we've covered it here. If it's only chat, if it's chat and computer audio, or if it's interaction on the computer and using the telephone as an option to actually have the dialogue. Let me pause there. Any questions? No questions? All right, let's keep going. So the next option that you have, in addition to working with the live tutor, is to submit a paper for review. So of course, this usually comes from upper grades, right? Usually that doesn't start till high school, occasionally maybe a middle school, but most of the time, this is for our secondary students in high school. And so again, you're going through those drop-down options and you're asking, or they're asking, what type of help do you actually need? So if you want to do an essay drop-off, what happens here is that you've already began the essay. So whether it's the very first rough draft, whether it's the first 2 to 3 paragraphs, depending on the length of the essay, you are able to drop it off here. But what students cannot do is just drop in your Cliff Notes. You can't drop in whatever form of note taking you took in class, and no actual collective writing has began. So you have to have a draft in some form in order to drop off your essay. So when you drop off your essay, it's going to ask a few questions so that the tutor has some knowledge of what it is you're trying to achieve. So what's the topic? Where are you in the writing process? Describe your assignment and any instructions from your teacher. That part is important. They ask for the instructions because the tutors want to ensure that they are guiding students in the direction that the teacher has started them in. And then what I love, because when I was in college, this was always a rough spot for me. What citation format are you using, if any? And I know that that might sound antiquated to a lot of students today, but man, did that used to trip me up back in the day. And then finally, you have the option to upload your file. When you upload your essay for review, the turnaround is about 12 to 24 hours for guarantee. Most of the time it's 4 hours. It's 3 hours. Very rarely is it the full 12 to 24 hours. If a student submits an essay or document for review, usually within a 3 to 4 hour window, the students are going to hear back. But again, this requires you to have a TutorATL account. And so they're going to reach out to you or contact you via your TutorATL account. A similar option is available for math. So in math, if students have a particular equation, a particular math problem that's very difficult for them to solve and they want some help, and again, it could be centered around homework, it just could be centered around practicing something. This is one of the options that I love that students could use in real time. If you're in class, and we know for a lot of our students, math can be very challenging, and the teacher has allowed you to do some independent work and you have access to your device in class, you're able to submit a question at a time. And this usually has less than an hour turnaround, sometimes as quickly as 30 minutes. And so again, it's asking you some basic questions so they can know exactly what type of math you're working on and including the directions. For this option, you also have, or for this particular resource, you have the option to draw your problem out. So if you want to write out the equation, if you want to show the tutor what you've actually done so far, so they can see the student's line of thinking, they can see possibly where they went wrong or if they're on the right track, you can attach a file that perhaps your teacher gave to you, and then you can also show what you've done so far. When tutors are responding to requests for a particular math problem, tutors will not solve the particular equation that the student sent. They will not use the exact same equation. What will happen is they will solve a different equation using the same formula, the same method, whatever it is that the student needs to know for that particular math problem. The tutor will answer a question using that same formula, outlining the process and the steps that they took in order to end or derive at the answer that they got. That way, it's not compromising the integrity of students practicing that particular problem on their own. And teachers, I know, want to make sure that students are going through the process themselves so that they understand what it takes and they're empowered to do it on a repetitive basis. So tutors will not answer that exact question. They're going to give you an example using the same formula, but a different problem. Next option is to take a practice quiz. It's asking me to sign in again. So taking a practice quiz is based on a subject area. And this is one of my favorites for students who are preparing for a test, who are studying. I know that I have a little bit of anxiety when I'm preparing for something. And so when I'm preparing, I love to practice as much as I can to make sure that I'm as prepared as I can be. And so students have an option to take a practice quiz. So they log in, and for some reason, here's that technology piece I was talking about. See why it's saying it's not valid. I'm not sure. I'll try to come back to that in a moment. But if you log in here, what you'll find is a drop-down menu, and this doesn't require you interacting with a tutor at all. Now, if you take the practice quiz and you have particular questions based on that practice quiz, you can submit it to your tutor and you can go over those questions, but this doesn't require the interaction of a tutor or with a tutor unless the student chooses to based on the results. They will get their answers to the practice quiz, and it also will give a breakdown of why or why not the students had the correct answer when they have completed the practice quiz, which I think is pretty cool. Here are some other tools. I talked a lot about standardized testing and then also other tests that students use to prepare for post-secondary, which is the ACT, the SAT. And I'm sure you guys know classes taking that prepare you for these tests can be pretty expensive. And so while this doesn't necessarily replace a class, it's a good option if you're not able to take a class for whatever reason, but you do want to use this opportunity to prepare for the SAT or the SAT. So when you do so, these materials have been developed directly by the Princeton Review, and they are a partner of tutor.com, who is a partner or powers TutorATL. So not only do you get to practice for the ACT and the SAT, but you can practice for the GRE. You can practice for grad school requirements if you so desire. So there's the GRE, there is the LSAT. All of those standardized tests that are required to enter a graduate program actually have practice tests here on TutorATL. And it's going to be a full-length test. There's videos available, practice drills, and then it's going to give you a detailed score report, which is so important when you're taking those standardized tests, knowing the details of what it is that you can continue to practice and what it is that you've mastered. So I think that that's a really, really cool tool. The next tool I want to share, let's see if I can get back to it. My internet is not being friendly today. And if I'm not able to get to it, one of the things I want to share is that there are so many resources that don't require a tutor for our K through 12 students as well, outside of the practice quizzes. So here we go. We call it the Skills Center Resource Library. And so here, this is basically a bank of resources, worksheets, practice for students in pretty much any topic in any grade level, K through 12. So if a student just wants to practice, if a parent wants to have their student practice, if a teacher wants to have students do additional practice outside of the curriculum that they're using in their classroom, you go here, you select the topic, you're selecting the subject, and then you select the subtopic. And so if we're saying we're studying factors, you go here, and what's going to happen is they're going to give you a bunch of study resources. So they're going to give you websites that you can go to, sample tests and worksheets, and also flashcards. And this is what I mean by TutorATL not being a homework hotline. This is just supplemental practice for students that could need it for a myriad of reasons. All of this is at their fingertips, and this portion is available 24/7. All of the materials that don't require interaction with a live tutor are available 24/7. The only portion that's limited to a live session is actually talking and interacting in real time with the tutor between 9 a.m. and to 11 p.m. But other than that, all of these other resources are available to students 24/7, which is a little bit different from what it had been in the past, and it's been upgraded, and they've added a ton of more resources. I'm looking at my notes because I just want to make sure that I've covered all the major and important things so that you all can know all of the resources offered in on the site. Any questions while I'm looking through my notes? Or any thoughts or feedback? I'd love to hear feedback, good, bad, or indifferent. I got pretty thick skin. Is it useful? Is it not useful?
Yes, I'm going to jump in and say, as a parent of a high schooler, I'll kind of twofold. I have not utilized it with her, although I have mentioned it to her a number of times about using the site. But you definitely opened my eyes to some things that I did not know were a part of the platform. So that definitely helps. And it gave me a different or another source that I can use for her, although she was taking SAT prep classes, but I definitely, but they were part of the school. But to have that other resource that she can now tap into herself, without having to be a part of, look for someone else is definitely a plus. So I like that.
Thank you for sharing that. I was looking through my notes. I pretty much went through everything in detail. Any other questions or comments or thoughts? I really want you all's feedback because a part of my job is working with tutor.com on a regular basis to make sure that we are optimizing this. We want it to be useful and purposeful for educators and for students, so that we can increase our usage and ultimately help our students succeed. That's really what it's for.
You guys, one thing that Aisha wants to do is she wants to make sure that she captures any needs that you guys have going on at the schools right now due to COVID or hybrid, or kids being at home rotating in and out because of COVID protocol. If there's a way that you think that TutorATL could help, part of what she's going to do is collect that information from you guys, and then she's going to target the social media marketing flyers to address those needs so that you can hand them out to parents or share with teachers as a way for them to have an easy button.
Exactly that. Thank you, Melissa. That's exactly what I want to do. I really am going to be able to thrive based on the feedback that you all give me. The reason why I was so excited and grateful to be able to have this meeting with you all this morning is because I want to basically keep my ear to the streets, as the kids say. I want to know what's going on on the ground. I actually sometimes miss being inside of a school because a lot of times it's hard to understand or really conceptualize until you see it in real time. But because of my past experience and me being fortunate enough to have access to you all, I'm hoping that I'll still be able to stay very connected, because what our funders want to know is that our students are using this. And what I love about the Dobbs Foundation is they're not pressing us to reach a certain goal or a certain number of hours, but what they want to know is who needs it most and are they utilizing it? And so that's why your feedback is so important, which kind of transitions us to what I have on my screen here, which is the usage report. So this usage report is from June of this year. So it basically is covering all of last school year. And so what you see here is the usage based on a month-to-month basis over the last school year. You'll see that in August, which we just came out of, usage was pretty low. That's pretty standard across the board. It's the first month of school, and usually students are not seeking tutoring or additional help. They're getting acclimated to being back in school that first month. But now that it's September, it's go time, right? This is when you're starting to have unit tests, benchmarks. If it's a high schooler that's in a 4x4 schedule, they have to think about the fact that they have their first set of milestones at the end of the semester, not the end of the school year. And so September is when you really start to see that usage skyrocket. And so in September of last year, what you see is the amount of live one-to-one sessions, right? And this is for APS in particular. So September, it shot up. In October, it pretty much stayed the same, just a very minor decrease in usage. November, it went even higher because now we're getting closer to the end of that semester. And as expected, December and January usage went down. But here comes the spring. It's time for test prep, right? It's time for preparation for whatever, appropriate tests that students are looking to do. And you're starting to think about, oh God, am I going to pass these classes? I don't want to be behind. And it serves all kinds of students, because it's not just trying to help students catch up. You have a lot of students who are advanced, and I've seen anxiety in students who are gifted, talented, and in advanced classes, and they want to make sure that they're prepared for what's coming next. And that usually starts to hit them in the spring. So you'll see that in February, the usage went back up, March decreased, and then of course from April down, now you're winding down the school year. But I say that to say that we would love for these numbers to double if possible. I know I'm aiming high, but that's a personal goal that I've set, because I want every student to know that TutorATL is such a user-friendly, intuitive site that's not intimidating. And that's what I love about it, because a lot of students are reluctant to seek help because of intimidation. They don't know exactly what they're going to get themselves into, and letting them know that this is at your free will and there is no intimidation involved. The Skills Center's usage is based on all those other resources that were available on the site that I shared with you all that don't involve a live tutor. So you'll see they're not used as much, but the 2 months where they were used the most was September and March during the last school year. And then here, this particular graph is showing you based on subject what the live one-to-one sessions were covering. So the largest was in math, 66, almost 7% of the students that logged in for live sessions were there for math help. English and language arts was 25%, and then 8.3% was science. And then when you get into even more of a breakdown, and you look at the particular subject within each department, Algebra 1 was the #1 class that students were logging in for. Then you had basic math and biology coming in second, spelling, elementary math, and chemistry. What grade levels were using TutorATL the most? 10th grade, then 5th grade, then 9th grade, and 8th grade. And I'm really interested. This is the part where I would love for you guys to tell me, because you are inside of the schools, do you guys have any notion or hunch as to why you think these particular grade levels were the grade levels that utilized TutorATL the most? 10th grade, 5th grade, 9th grade, and 8th grade. And there's no right or wrong answer. I'm just genuinely curious if you guys have any perspective on that.
As a former 5th grade teacher, I could definitely see it being used a lot for 5th grade because we're getting them ready for middle school.
Totally understand that. Any thoughts from anybody else or about the other grades? Okay. And then if you go down to the skill centers usage by subject, the number one subject that it was used for was the SAT and ACT essentials. Next was algebra, then elementary math, statistics, middle grades, calculus, and then English middle grades. So these reports are available on a monthly basis. I will always share them with Melissa. This last screen here is just showing students served by zip code. And if you have a particular interest in seeing this report on a regular basis, you can reach out to me or to Melissa, so that if you want to use it as talking points with anybody that you're discussing TutorATL with on a district level or on a school level, and they can kind of get a scope of what students have done historically with TutorATL, by all means, feel free to reach out to me. This report is available on a month-by-month basis. So I meet with tutor.com once a month. So I'll meet with them next month and they'll share the usage report with me from August, and that will happen every month going forward. So
Aisha, there is one question.
Okay.
Are we able to get any data by school?
So historically, it has not been available. It's been done by zip code. And it's funny that you say that, because I actually asked that when I initially started. And so as of now, it doesn't exist, but tutor.com actually is working on their end to see if that's going to be an option. So when I meet with them next week, they're supposed to be following up with me about that, because I asked the same question as well, because I think that's pretty helpful.
Thank you.
No problem. So yes, this is showing the breakdown: subject, zip code, total user accounts, and then the session feedback. Another thing that we love, that we really, really love, and I'll be honest with you, that our partners who help make this possible really love, is anecdotes, feedback from students, from teachers, from parents, from you all. There is nothing that is a heartstring tugger or that is more convicting than a good testimony. And there is nothing that drives feedback, or drives improvement than positive or constructive feedback. And so what I ask of you all is, if there's any moment that happens sporadically that you couldn't plan, where you're engaging in conversation with someone about TutorATL and you feel like it's feedback worth having, of course, we try to capture it here on the website. Every student takes a very short survey at the end of their live session. But if you're able to catch any of that directly from our constituents, I would be so grateful and so appreciative, because those anecdotes are what really drive those who are backing this program. They want to know, what do the parents think about it? Like, of course, we have a lot of feedback from our students because they're using it directly, but do parents find it helpful? Do teachers find it helpful? What could we be doing to make this more useful for everyone involved? So if there's, and it doesn't have to be formal, it literally can be an email that says TutorATL feedback, and you just send me a 3 to 4 line email just sharing with me what the student, parent, educator, et cetera, said. If you could just note the grade level of the student, or the student that the parent or educator is referring to, or the school that the educator is at, and their subject area. Any anecdote would be greatly, greatly appreciated, because that is what drives the backing of this program, right? And it's been in use since 2017, but the skyrocket of use last year has really opened the eyes to a lot of those who are advocating for this to continue. And so being able to collect more of that will continue that advocacy. So I'm going to stop sharing now. And the last thing that I want to discuss with you all, and Melissa already touched on, is I really want to be extremely intentional about increasing awareness of TutorATL and making it very clear to our constituents that it is not a homework hotline. It is a tutoring service that can be utilized for any tutoring needs that students may have. And so some of the more obvious things that I know a lot of you have already done and are doing is, TutorATL is accessible through my backpack, but ensuring that it's on the school website of all of our individual schools, because we know that that gets a lot of traffic and a lot of eyes. Also using social media, which I'm going to come back to, because like Melissa said, one of my plans is to start a social media campaign within the next 2 weeks, specifically about TutorATL. But also, and a way to increase awareness is to ask teachers to utilize TutorATL during tutorials. Now, it's been about a year and a half since I have been in an APS school on a regular basis, but I remember when I was there, every Wednesday was tutorials. And so every Wednesday, teachers were required to stay after school for an additional hour to offer themselves to students who needed additional help. And I think that this is a great resource that could be used in tutorials. Also, it can be used as an asynchronous learning tool in relation to COVID. So if a student has to quarantine for whatever reason, because they've been exposed or contracted COVID and they're continuing their learning at home while they quarantine, TutorATL can be used as an asynchronous learning tool. And then also making sure that our parent liaisons and everyone at the school who's interacting with parents directly is able to send this messaging to our parents so that they know it's available. Because we know the students knowing is one thing, the parents knowing is a different thing. But I would love to hear your feedback, your thoughts. What can we do to scream it from the mountaintop, to tell the masses TutorATL is here and we want everybody to use it? Because we've already paid for the hours, y'all. It's there. We bought a lot of hours for the school year and we want to make sure that it's used. So any thoughts around that?
I have a question.
Mm-hmm.
Are the tutors trained to work with kids with special needs, or do they receive any training for that?
Oh, that's a really good question. I don't know. I will find out. Let me write that down. That's a really valid question. Are tutors trained for students with special needs? I don't know, but I will find out for you.
I was a special ed teacher, so I've tutored lots of kids, but I was just wondering if they had any training in that.
That's a really valid question. And I will find the answer for you. Any other questions or feedback?
Hey, everyone, not a question, I guess just a feedback for the group. Of course, we've been talking about TutorATL for years. This is definitely, especially for our newer ETSs, one of those things that you want to make sure you're sharing with teachers, whether it's dropping a flyer off in the classroom or when you get in with your new teachers, when you stop by and visit your classrooms, just like a, hey kids, did you know kind of thing, walking them through, showing them where it is in my backpack. It is an expectation that every student in APS knows about TutorATL. We have it for free. It's just it's an amazing resource that I don't think everybody knows about, that they need to know about. So as you're walking through your classes, as you're meeting with your teachers, you're meeting with your students, if you need flyers or any of that kind of stuff, just email Melissa. She's got it all. Trust me, she's got videos, flyers, probably has email templates. There's no excuses why you should not be sharing this with your students and teachers. So please make sure that's the expectation that you are doing that. Thank you.
So I want to talk about the social media campaign that just came out of a brainstorming idea as I was getting acquainted with TutorATL when I came in to PBA back in July. I was doing research and I found out that we have some social media accounts that haven't been utilized a lot in the past. And I want to change that because I know one of the easiest ways to touch kids is through social media. They're not anywhere else. They're on Instagram and Twitter and Snapchat. Well, Twitter is probably a little antiquated for them, but I know they're on Instagram and TikTok and things of that nature. So I'm going to be working with one of my colleagues at PBA to do a social media campaign for TutorATL, and Melissa's going to be giving me a lot of input and assisting with what she thinks would be useful to reach students. And so the first portion of that campaign will just be about, did you know? Did you know that TutorATL exists? Did you know that you could do all these things on TutorATL? And we're actually going to do some cool contests as well. And so we'll allow students to interact with TutorATL online, and we're going to offer prizes. And we know that everybody loves recognition and shout outs, right? So what we'll do is, if you're able to get, a certain amount of your classmates to follow, if you're able to get a certain amount of your classmates to create an account, various things that we can do to get students engaged. We're going to drive a lot of that through social media. And of course, we're always going to tag the social media account of Melissa's office and then other offices in APS as well. Because one thing that I love about APS is that APS utilizes social media in such a strategic way. And I really love that about APS. And so I want to follow that lead. And so I'll be working with my colleagues to create a social media campaign. It'll focus on awareness in the beginning, But really one of my larger goals around it is to target it around specific academic milestones that are happening. And that's when I'll need you all. That's when I'll need the assistance of the curriculum leaders on the district level and on the school level to say, what should we be targeting? Okay, this is coming up. And we really want students to know that they can use TutorATL, whether it's students preparing for the milestone, right? That's the obvious one. But what if, you know, collectively, based on the scope and sequence of Algebra 1, most students are going to be coming up against a unit or coming up to a unit that traditionally is a very hard unit for students to master. So the standards in this unit as a district usually are a little complicated for the students. What can TutorATL do in our social media accounts to target that particular standard, that particular unit, when as a collective, the scope and sequence of Algebra 1 is coming up on that unit? And that's when I'll need your assistance. So I want to target it to specific subject areas, to specific grade levels, to specific schools in terms of elementary, middle school, and high school. And so I want to start the social media campaign with just increasing awareness to parents, to teachers, to students. But then I want to target it towards the specific needs that students have. And we want to remind them that this is a great time to utilize TutorATL during this portion of the school year. And so Melissa knows that that's one of my primary goals of launching this. And I really want you all's influence and input on that, because I'm not a teacher, so I don't have access to the curriculum. I don't have access to the scope and sequence. But just from historical knowledge, I know that those times of years, that time of the academic year happens all the time when science is focusing on this and social studies is in this part. What can we do to help drive success in those particular areas of the curriculum in all of the various subject areas? I know that it was just mentioned that sharing the flyers, there are flyers that are being updated. And so hopefully they'll be done being updated by the end of this week, if not early next week. As soon as they're updated, they will be yours. I'm going to share them with Melissa and she'll get them out to all of you all. Feel free to distribute as you see fit, digitally, printing them out, passing them out at school. But we know flyers are an easy way to touch people, and we want to be able to touch them through flyers and through digital touch points as well. So that should be coming to you all sooner than later, because of course that's a quick and easy way to pass it out and get the word around to your school. So please be looking for that soon. So that's pretty much all that I have. But if you don't have any other feedback to share now, which we're here till 10, so I'm not rushing at all, and you start thinking of things, I'm going to drop my email in the chat, because I really love little quick notes. If you just have something that comes to you that you feel like is prolific, or just something that I should know that maybe I didn't cover, something that PBA should be considering as we're looking to improve TutorATL, don't hesitate to shoot me an email. I'm pretty accessible. I am part-time as of now. I work Tuesday through Thursday. As soon as that changes and I become full-time at PBA, I'll make sure that you all know, because then I'll be accessible on a traditional work schedule Monday through Friday. So
Aisha, I do have one thing, and it's a scenario that popped up yesterday, and we've seen a lot more of it happening. In a nutshell, because parents are not available to enroll their students in a virtual school right now, they are opting to still keep their students at home, but they want their students to be academically involved. So our teachers are already placing assignments in Google Classroom as it is. So as long as those students have a device, they have access to at least those materials, but they're limited in the access of that direct instruction or having somebody that they could, academically speak with. So that was something that I want to make sure that, it's on the radar, and mindset, from, especially hearing all the things that, like you say, TutorATL is not homework hotline. And I remember that distinctively from Clayton County. So to hear that, there's an access to that live person, I think that's something to maybe some kind of marketing or targeting area from that perspective.
I agree. Thank you for pointing that out. Absolutely. And what I'm going to do is ask Melissa to share like the transcript and the recording of this with me, so I can go back and listen and make sure that as I'm creating awareness campaigns, that's something that we target specifically. That is exactly the type of information I'm looking for to keep in the forefront of my mind as we're trying to build awareness. So thank you for that.
Absolutely.
Any other feedback or questions? I genuinely thank you for your time. I hope it was worth it. I really want this to be great for our kids. I want it to be great for our educators and for our parents. And in this time, especially, right? Everything that is going on in our schools and that's impacting ultimately the success of our students. I want this to be one more thing that helps to bring them to the goal that honestly is not going to be wavered because of COVID. That's the thing. Like kids still got to graduate. Kids still have to go to school. They still are expected to be promoted with integrity and successfully to the next grade. None of that stops because of COVID. And so we're hoping that TutorATL can be a resource for them to do that successfully and still meet those goals. So I genuinely thank everybody for your time, for your attention. And of course, if you have any other thoughts or feedback after today, don't hesitate to reach out to me. And I look forward to hopefully getting to see some of you all again at some point. I doubt this will be the last time we ever gather collectively, but every time we gather, I hope to make it worthwhile and worth your time. So thanks, guys.
Aisha, thank you so much. We appreciate the phenomenal information that you shared. And I can see our usage doubling because we're in it to win it. We love TutorATL too.
I'm excited.
Thank you, everyone. Have a great day.
If I could keep everyone on for just a second, I just saw someone click off. Thank you, Aisha. Appreciate you so much.
Bye, guys.
Bye.
I
The
just
kids
have a
at
quick
Sylvan
announcement.
love TutorATL. At least they did pre-COVID.
Yeah, I
love
just have a quick announcement real quick. Is Patrina on here still? Yeah, I see her face.
Yeah, I'm still here.
So this is, I'm giving you some information that is going to be public knowledge on Friday, but I need y'all to keep it hush till Friday. Like this is not broadcast information until it's announced on Friday. Atlanta Virtual Academy will be opening their doors on Friday for more students. So it's going to be a lottery system, and I'm depending on what the board, they had a board meeting, they have a board meeting today and presentation today. Depending on what they approve, it's going to be anywhere between 1,000 and 2,000 students, but it's going to be a lottery system. Now, does AVA really affect us? Not really, because we don't really deal with AVA, but to Patrina's point earlier, and somebody else emailed or in the group said something about the virtual academy as well. I just wanted you all to have that information. So when there's a big rush of, you guys might get emails, you guys might get phone calls. Just know that that's what that is. They are looking to, I believe, have everything in place. I want to say by October 1st. So some districts and counties are waiting until January to reopen their virtual academies. APS is not waiting. And so we are literally jumping feet first into the water. So I sent y'all that email yesterday. A couple of y'all have already jumped in. Thank you so much. This does not pertain to our school-based bills ETS, this part, just because you guys can't leave your schools. But for the original ETSs that are on here, if you can give one day, Melissa, you can stop the recording too. Sorry. If anybody has 1 day, 2 days,